Alright everyone, it's sort of time for a more personal video actually, which is that learning to cook is cool, and that's sort of my new thing that I'm doing now. Like for the past few months I've been cooking more and more different things, in part because, you know, my wife likes to cook and she's good at it, so I've sort of like picked it up a bit, like certain recipes or ideas of how to cook things, and it's sort of like I can play the keyboard a little, but I can't read any notes. I can only play by ear. And if you gave me a recipe to cook by, I think I would probably fail at it. And so largely it's improvisational, and it's based more on the idea of like looking at the things that are synthesized that go into certain kinds of dishes, and then sort of building upon that, if it makes sense. Like I made pasta for the first time the other day, a few days ago. I made another batch last night that was actually superior. Actually, it was surprisingly good. I thought that I was going to burn the noodles or something. That didn't happen. It's like, for years I've known how to cook a few basic things. Like, I've always known how to cook sloppy joes. And I have to tell you, I make the best sloppy joes in the world. By the way, you can't use too lean a beef, otherwise it's just dumb. Make sure it's real beef. Buffalo works. You can use buffalo meat. I know that that's leaner, but it gets away with it. Generally, though, ground beef, a good sauce, and then you have to put lots of stuff. Like some people, they just mix the sauce and the meat, and that's the sloppy joe. No, my friend. You need onions. You need some garlic. You saute it off first, usually. You need lots of herbs. You can add peppers, actually. It gives it a nice crisp. Make sure not to make them too mushy first. Don't overcook the peppers. Basically, you put them in cold, and you just let them heat once the meat and the sauce are mixed. And I've always known how to make a grilled cheese, and I'm good at that. But by and large, mostly me cooking in the past was a microwave. In all honesty, it was a can of soup in a microwave. Now, though, I've learned how to cook like veggie soup, roasted chicken of various kinds. It's like Liz the other night was cooking with chicken, and you know she had quite a bit left over. So then I roasted it off with honey and mustard, and you know sort of seared the outside of it, and actually it came out really good. It was pretty great. Now I should have breaded and fried it maybe. I could have made myself some tendies. Then I could move to Chaz. Then I could be their chief botanist. Don't worry, I wouldn't actually do that. The taxes in Seattle are so high, even if Chaz wasn't there, it definitely wouldn't be on my priority list. It's not even on a priority list of places to visit. Parts of Washington State, though, they have really good amanita mushrooms. Not sure about Seattle. But basically, I'm still sticking to some fairly simple recipes. Pasta, making my own sauce from scratch, by the way. Just basically mush up the tomatoes and simmer them down with all the other sautéed stuff that you want. It needs a little salt. I'm going to try making the sauce a bit sweeter next time. I threw in cherry tomatoes this time, and that sweetened it a bit. I like a sweeter sauce generally in pasta. I also like a fairly thick sauce, and this time I thickened it more. And generally, though I'm just trying to learn how to cook different things, like and this is something that I had never actually had before, that Liz made a while ago. And it's mashed potato, but you mash up broccoli into it and sort of mix it about 50-50. And it was great. It doesn't even, if you add, you know, butter and garlic and all these other things, some chives maybe, it makes it considerably better than sort of like the level 1 mashed potato experience, which is basically just potatoes mashed up with some butter. Now, as a person from New England, I've been spoiled when it comes to certain kinds of food. Like, my dad was a head chef for a long time, so I've always been exposed to really great soups. My mom's really good at baking, but a lot of the food is very standard, lower-class New England fare. I grew up poor, and so a lot of it was Betty Crocker food, microwaved hot dogs, things like that. Very, very basic foods. Because it's what I'm used to, I consider what you would maybe consider basic home-cooked meals to be almost decadent in some cases. Learning how to make tacos will be fun. I'm just looking, I want to make everything at this point. Like, it's kind of fun because I never saw myself as able to cook specifically. Again, other than a few very basic things. Like, I can make a good grilled cheese, but now I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to need a grilled cheese caprese. And I'll add tomato and other stuff into it and have roast the herbs onto the toasted bread. I had made soup once in my life when I was a kid, and it was edible, but it wasn't great. It wasn't the sort of thing you'd brag about and feed other people. It's not the sort of thing you would finish a bowl of. Now I've made vegetable soup several times, and each time I find myself refining it and sort of building upon the flavors that are there and improving. And also, like, the way that I like to eat things is a little bit different, I think, from most people, because, like, some people have a genetic abnormality. It's, I think, like 40% of the population has this, where you don't perceive the bitterness in vegetables. Like, a lot of people, and I never knew this, a lot of people, when they eat, like, green vegetables, it tastes bitter to them. For me, that's not the case. For me, they taste sweet. There is no bitterness in most of them. And what little bitterness is in certain vegetables, I think is related to different chemicals and to me tastes good, like asparagus or something like that, Brussels sprouts. I like these things, and I also like low salt foods. I've never been much of a salt eater, and also I don't like a lot of sugar in things. Like like I've had berry pies before, right? And my mom usually makes them. And she's used different recipes. And there was one recipe that was like specifically low sugar that she made once, because my grandma, who unfortunately passed away, I think now 15 years ago, was diabetic. And so if she was going to have pie, it had to be like fairly little amount of sugar in it. I mean, you're not going to dump aspartame, sweet and low, into the pie. That'd be a little bit odd. And so you compensate, but it was like a blackberry pie. It was like the best pie I ever had, and it had almost no sugar added to it. That's the sort of thing I actually like. I was kind of a weird kid because when I could choose between candy or fruit, I typically opted for the fruit. With the exception of Hershey bars once in a while, by the way. Hershey's is the best. Nestle sucks. Just saying. But learning how to cook is pretty fun, actually. Again, it's something that I never really thought that I would pick up. Like I had been around people cooking before, and it always seemed like alchemy to me. It seemed very confusing. Now, though, I've sort of picked up, because Liz typically doesn't follow an ironclad recipe, more of an idea of food, I've actually picked it up kind of as a skill, so I'm going to be working on that. I don't think I'm quite confident enough in my food yet to make like a cooking video. It would also be nice to have a better setup. As far as the kitchen here is pretty nice, but it's not exactly set up for recording. Maybe wait until the future, have like, you know, a setup that's a bit more sophisticated. I think you'd probably need multiple cameras for something like that anyway. You need to be able to show things from different angles. One can do close-ups or fucking whatever. It gets into some weird territory because I've never really edited videos either. But I encourage you all to try cooking. It's actually pretty fun. Baking the pasta is fun. It's like, I expected when I put the noodles, I literally never even boiled noodles before in my life before like a week ago. I expected I would burn them, or that they would come out like a pot of glue, and that I'd use it to, like, you know, fix appliances around the house. I would just have to mash it up and it would be exactly like Elmer's or something. And no, it actually came out perfectly, and I didn't expect that. And it was, you know, tasty. And then the last one, the batch I made yesterday, was better. I think it's easier to make a veggie soup than it is to make like the pasta sauce, because with that, basically you saute the vegetables on the side, add them in, you're boiling the soup, you need bouillon of course, and however much salt to taste, and herbs. It's pretty straightforward, and to make it a chicken soup, you know, you add chicken in various ways. One thing I really want to learn how to do, when I was at UVM, there was, and of course this is all like prepackaged Sodexo food, but they had a Florentine soup, a Spanish Florentine soup, and I can't remember exactly the ingredients, but I'm going to try to find a recipe close enough to it. Oh, it was one of the best soups I ever had. I went back and got like thirds, actually. You know, I had to use my own points in order to do that. In meal plan, you had blocks and points, and it was kind of confusing. I had like 3 of those that day. It was so great. Then they never served it again, and I was very sad. Then they had a Moroccan, like a bean soup. It had chickpeas and other stuff in it. I also like pea soup. That's another thing that I really want to make, is like a really slow brewed, like Irish style pea soup, or ham and split pea. I'm a sucker for peas, beans, things like that. Lentil soup is my favorite. I don't know how to make that yet. I think that's a little bit more complex. I think you have to soak the beans for like 24 hours. It's like, come on, dude. Anyway, I want to grow lentils. They're a legume. They help the soil structure. I know this is just sort of an unhinged rant at this point about various foods, but yeah, I thought some people might be interested. So yeah, try cooking something. Like, get a basic recipe and just cobble it together. It's actually not nearly as hard as I thought. Trust me, if I can cook vegetable soup or make a pasta, I think probably you can. I think a lot of times people, they burn it the first time and then they give up. It might take you a few tries. Like my first vegetable soup back when I was like 15 when I made it. Yeah, not exactly the sort of thing that you would give to a friend. That's about all. Peace out.